Welcome to episode 10 of our AI GTM talk series. Really excited to welcome to the conversation Sam Mallikarjun of Agent AI. Sam, how are you? Good morning.
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to being on the first podcast I've been on in a while that can say my last name properly.
Okay, glad to hear that. So I'm going to just share a screen here. And so, just to kind of set the stage for both of us. And then we will get into it. Just to give some context, to the folks listening, I'm gonna uh, first talk about what this talk series is about. It's really designed, Sam, for we see a lot of confusion in the market around AI for go to market. A lot of transformation happening, new technology tools. People are confused, so we thought, why not have a series of talks with some amazing tech founders building the tech at the front, front line of all this, AI, and where AI meets go to market. And the other is we've been bringing on, revenue leaders, practitioners who are investing in these areas. And just to kick it off, I'm gonna quickly take 30 seconds just to talk about who we are, what we're all about, and then Sam, the rest of the show is going to be all about you, and we want to learn a lot about Agent AI. So here at Quanzu, we uh, have a platform and also an on-demand service that helps with automating the complete outbound process. So we're doing outbound automation. So the way we do that is we unify, bring together buying signals, both person level, company level, and the signals are both from the website, so on the website, off the website, and a variety of high quality signals. But then again, in terms of deploying this, we then integrate with tools like Clay and a variety of other modern AI tools, and then from there connect into sales engagement platforms, AISDR tools, and kind of automate the entire workflow. And the goal being to drive response rates, pipeline and revenue for customers. Obviously, a lot of innovation happening in the AI space around go to market, and we're going to talk about that and more with you, hopefully today, Sam. So just to kick it off, um, I'm going to ask you this, Sam. Stop the screen share now. Tell us a little bit about Agent AI. What do you all do?
So Agent AI is a marketplace or a professional network, if you will, for AI agents. So one, it's a builder, so you can build AI agents to do what you want to do. It always has access to the latest models for free. You can connect it to all the tools you use, so whether that's HubSpot or any other tools, um, and you can design agents that do exactly what you want to do. And then it's only about like 5% of people are actually agent builders. The rest of the users, we have over 2 million users. The rest of the users are people like you and me, may not necessarily build an agent, but there's like 1,400 agents on the site that do everything from like LinkedIn prospecting to helping you write a speech. I just built one to help me like write a speech for next week in Scotland, where it pretends to be the audience and then gives me feedback on it. So that's what we do. We make it easy to build and discover and use AI agents, and you can create teams. So if you want to create teams of AI agents that do stuff in coordination, you can do that as well.
Interesting. And if you can give us a sense of the kinds of agents, whatever is on the site, are there specific, call it target segment of companies, buyers, personas, buying groups that will find value in the kind of agent that are already on the site? I mean, what does it look like, at least at the moment? Because I'm sure it's constantly evolving.
Yeah, there's new ones being built every day. There's something like 34,000 total agents, only about 1,400 of which are made public because you don't have to publish an agent that you built. You can keep it private. For the most part, it's revenue professionals. So it's stuff to help you either automate tasks, do research and intelligence, create content, have better conversations, consume content better. So, like, I have an agent that listens to all of my podcasts for me and generates a podcast just for me that's shorter every morning for when I go for my morning walk. There's also fun stuff. Like, we don't put any restrictions on it. I have a chess lessons AI agent that helps me with chess. Somebody else built one that was a Dungeons and Dragons dungeon master agent, which is apparently very time intensive process. And so he made an agent so he could spend more time having fun with his friends. But yeah, you can build anything. Most people are using it for professional applications, but nothing says you can't have fun with it too.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's quite something. Um, so just to give people a feel for where the world is today, right? I mean, let me ask you a broader question, and I mean, maybe you can help us understand this. That I think people are trying to understand the gamut of AI, in the sense that there is the whole interactive text chat experience that you get with engaging through a chat GPT or a Claude or any of these interfaces. And then there's these agents. And I think from what I know, people are still trying to get their hands around what's the difference between me going into chat GPT and typing a prompt, and then how is an agent different? How do I engage with an agent? How do I experience an agent? Right. And fundamentally, how is an agent different? So maybe you can touch upon that along with, give us as
Yeah.
you walk us through a demo. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I could definitely walk you through that. We'll talk about agents first, though. It's a good example of why we should never let engineers name anything. They called it
Yeah.
artificial intelligence. We're now stuck with that, even though it's too broad of a term. They called it agentic AI, which most people think of like the agents from the Matrix. They don't quite understand it. But the key difference is there's lots of people building what's called foundational models. So OpenAI with ChatGPT, Anthropic with Claude, etc. An agent is something that you trust to take actions on your behalf. So like think of it as a literal like a buyer's agent or something like that. So you let it like go synthesize content, maybe it's interacting with users, etc. If you're working with ChatGPT, I mean, it's great. I used it this morning. I just turn on voice mode and have a nice chat with it. But it's not actually doing stuff on your behalf. So being able to connect it to tools, and also not every model is equally good. So Claude is good at some things that OpenAI, ChatGPT are bad at. I love using Perplexity for search. It's completely replaced Google in my life. But that's the difference between just using like a chat interface with a foundational model. Powerful, good, you can do lots of cool stuff. But an agent is something that you make that uses that AI and actually goes and uses tools on your behalf. So I'll share my screen real quick, and we'll kind of walk through just a quick example here. So if you go to Agent AI, obviously you can search for agents. There's tons of stuff here. Like I said, over 1,300 agents are public. You can kind of see which ones are interesting. Say I'm looking at marketing. John Mark is here, so somebody's got a video scripts generator. It's pretty cool.
Mhm.
It's got reviews and stuff on the site. You can add it to a team if you wanted to. I already filled it out in advance because it takes like 60 seconds to run. And I didn't figure people wanted 60 seconds of dead air. But he set it up so it asks a few questions, what's your topic and what are key messages you want to have. And then it just generates, in this case, it generated a script. It generated a script for a video on this very kind of like basic topic. And it's not that complicated. So like this seems powerful, right? A few years ago, this would have been dark magic. This would have been inconceivable even to do something this simple. But if you look behind the scenes and what he's built, it's really just a series of steps. So get stuff from the user, get user input, what's the topic, everything else like that. And then it really just uses GPT 4.0 to get the prompt, and then uses another model of 4.0 called Mini to clean it up and mark it down and output it in HTML. So if you can think methodically step by step, you can create an AI agent to do anything you want. Just like finish here. So I'm going to create an agent real quick. You can start from scratch. You can have it be, this is all the information for the profile. That's great. You can have it be triggered by, email. So I don't read my newsletters anymore. I forward all of my newsletters to an agent that then reads them for me. You can take all these actions, user input, use an AI to do something. Ignore some of these things. Some of these are beta features that I have that not everybody else has, but it's an interesting insight into where we're going next. If you're more advanced, you can do, serverless functions. You can create stuff that's really powerful here. But even if all you want to do is, let's like look at one of my agents. If all you want to do is, so I have chess lessons every week. I'm supposed to watch these videos, and I got annoyed at this like 25-year-old brilliant like national master coach that I have. But I got annoyed with him like constantly telling me how dumb I am and why I missed everything. And so this particular agent, all it does is say like what video was I supposed to watch, and then it takes these actions. So it gets the transcript, It says you're a coach, analyze the transcript, and ask questions, and then it gives me answers on how to improve my answers. So it's not dark magic. It's just like thinking methodically about what you want and how you want it to work.
Understood. Okay, so that's AI agent. I think the key point you made is you need us as humans. We need to be able to trust this AI agent to do something on our behalf. So that notion that it can operate on its own independently on your behalf, I think that's a key distinction. Right? It's not just doing what you tell it to do.
The trust
It,
spectrum is the key defining, like, if I was to put time on an x-axis, like the amount that we trust computers is perfectly correlated to kind of like the growth of AI. We've all used AI before, like even if you just think of autocomplete or spell check or something like that, right? Like as you're typing, it says like, here's probably the next word you mean, here's probably the next phrase. If you're using ChatGPT, it's just evolved to say like, here's probably the next paragraph, or here's probably the next like entire essay, or here's the image that you want it to generate. So it's just the more powerful it gets, the more we plug it into systems, the less supervision it's requiring. And that's the only thing that's really changed is it became computationally efficient to have it do much more complicated things and let us be able to trust the output. So yeah, it's absolutely trust is that's the only thing that separates autocomplete from ChatGPT is just how much we trust it to do how much.
right. So let's continue on that path. Right. So in terms of what you said earlier was it's primarily using a lot of agents getting built in the spectrum of revenue professionals, meaning revenue operations, right? Marketing ops, sales ops, rev ops. Uh, Now we're talking about trust. What kinds of agents are you truly seeing where uh, the trust levels are higher? Because as you know, there's a lot of skepticism out in the industry, out in the world about how much can I rely on these agents to do my literally some critical parts of my tasks for me. Uh,
Yeah, I describe agents essentially as interns. It's a really smart intern, fresh out of Harvard MBA, but I still would not let that intern send an email to 8 million people without me checking its work.
uh,
So if you wouldn't trust a very smart intern to do it, you should not yet trust AI. And sometimes the consequences are small, right? Like if it gets a fact wrong in the podcast overview that it generates for me, like that's not as big a deal. When it starts touching other people, so for example, I have one that I feed all of our team meetings to, right? And Dharmesh can just ask questions like, "What's the status of XYZ project, etc." That's like slightly more important than my audio overview. And then when you get to really important things that we're not sure if we want to trust them yet, where you actually let it interact with human users without a human in the loop, uh, that's that's exciting. It's dangerous. It's if you draft an outreach email on for your sales team or something like that, like you want to check it first. It's the only reason I don't like that is because there's some things I'm really excited about AI. For example, people forget it was originally invented for translation. The T in GPT transformers was invented for translation. And I love the idea because we've got, I think, like 180 countries we have users from. I'd love to be able to provide support and a user experience in each one of those languages. I just think that'd be awesome. That's a world I want to live in where language isn't a barrier. But I don't yet trust AI to not say something weird
hmm.
because it might translate the word literally or the phrase literally, but it just like doesn't quite come through. I'm not there in my like confidence in my relationship with it yet. So I think that's going to be the next step. Is like, can we get it to do things without us having to check its work? And then the next step after that is, can we get it to do things where its work isn't even checkable by us? Because like I don't speak French. And so if I'm having to interact with the user in French, there's no way for me to be a human in that loop.
Got it. Got it. Um, so do you have, my next question was around any enterprise, call it SMB, mid-market enterprise use cases. Uh, do you have anything more specific on specific use cases that you're seeing your agents getting plugged in
Yeah,
into
the
a
most
workflow process?
the most obvious one, because sales reps are always early adopters to things because they're optimizers. They're always looking for an edge. So using company research to do prospecting, like the amount of good outreach emails and good LinkedIn messages that I get is actually terrifying now because it's a little hard for me to distinguish between a human who's reaching out for mentorship, or somebody who is, I try and mentor as many people as I have time for, or a bot that's just written a LinkedIn message that has just listened to all of my interviews and knows I like mentoring people. Like that's kind of a thin line. I think that's probably the least creative way to use it. It's an obvious way. Using it to just crank out content you were doing before. So like, how do I be a thought leader on LinkedIn? It's fine. It's good for that. It does legitimately work. Um, the more interesting things for me are, how do you use it to help you understand other perspectives? So, whether it's your boss, people who work for you, your customer, like at HubSpot, I had it easy, right? I joked I was a marketer marketing to marketers about marketing. So I literally once sent an email that said, I know that you opened that email and didn't click the link. But most people aren't the people that they're trying to sell to. And so like having AI help adopt that perspective, I think is really interesting. Because it's hard. Like we try, but it's hard for us to like step outside of our mentality. And then using it to be more empathetic communicators in both ways. Like somebody built an agent in a 45-minute hackathon, by the way. This does not take them a lot of time. That takes customer support tickets, online reviews, that kind of stuff, preserves the important parts, but strips out all the meanness. Because customers can be mean, right? They're upset. Like, I get it, but we don't need to necessarily expose our reps to that. And I thought that was beautiful, right? Like it's preserving the intent of somebody needing to understand the situation, be able to resolve it, but without like unnecessarily stressing out somebody on your team. And vice versa is also the same case. I have a friend, actually a couple of months ago now. I asked him, I'm like, are you using AI to write your text messages to me? Because if you don't tell it to adopt a voice, you can kind of tell when it's AI. And he said yes, because he's got some like learning and communication disabilities, et cetera. And he was having a chat with the AI and then using that to communicate with me better. So more concisely, citing facts, that kind of stuff. So that's the thing that I find really exciting. You can use it to automate processes. You can use it to analyze data. You can use it to crank out content, but the window on that being an advantage is pretty small because everybody's going to start using it that way. The more interesting ways are, can you use it to be more empathetic? Can you use it to be a better communicator?
Interesting. No, that's great to hear. Um, let's talk next about agents and AI agents for go-to-market as a category. Obviously, HubSpot, you all, right, and Agent AI, you're trying to offer a bunch of agents, trying to create a marketplace. How do you see this evolving as a category? I mean, I'm guessing other people are also going to want to do this in different ways, shape, or form. Maybe it's an open AI, maybe it's Google, maybe it's right the folks at Amazon or the Microsofts of the world. Can you talk about how do you see the whole category shaping up in the coming weeks and months?
Yeah. So one, the people building foundational models, OpenAI as a great example, they're working towards artificial general intelligence. And I get it. Whoever wins that, like we collectively retire as a species. That generally means that a computer can do any task as well as any human. Bit ambitious considering a human can't do any task as well as any other human. Like you're better at some things than I am. And I spend 0% of my time thinking about that world because, like I said, we just retire as a species. We have to figure out like something else to do with our time and how to structure our society. So those companies aren't really building. For example, like the custom GPT thing was a great idea, but they never really leaned into it, gave the support it needed, everything else like that, because it doesn't support their mission of AGI. Everybody else is trying to build actual applications of it. And listen, maybe AGI happens. Maybe it happens sooner than I thought. And again, in which case it doesn't matter. But like as the people running our companies, let's assume it's not going to happen for the next 5 to 10 years, and that we need to like figure out how to live in this world. Then you get the platform players. So like HubSpot, and to clarify, I don't actually work for HubSpot. I used to run HubSpot Labs, but Agent AI is a separate organization, even though Dharmesh Shah founded both. Uh, HubSpot's building, AI to do really powerful stuff with HubSpot's data in HubSpot's context, with HubSpot's tools, and that's what the other people are working on. Microsoft Copilot's doing the same thing, right? So like it works better with Teams than it does with Zoom. Um, that's like the platform players are saying, how can we make AI make our platforms better?
Mm-hmm.
We're the only ones. There are other people, by the way, who have business models off of building agent builders, and they're better than ours. Like, let me clarify. If you are an enterprise or very sophisticated developer and you're willing to pay for software, like there are other agent builders out there that are pretty cool. The reason we built one is because we didn't want technical expertise or budget to prevent anybody from being part of kind of the AI future. So you don't have to. My 16-year-old nephew is like one of the most prolific builders that we have on the site, right? But he would never be able to pay for one of the builder suites. And then we're about like connecting disparate things. So you can connect Salesforce, you can connect HubSpot, you can then have it like create a Google Drive file, etc. So when I think of the universe, there's the like I call them or our head of product calls them single cell organisms. So agents that just do one thing. If you go to there'sanai.com, one of my favorite sites, there's like 20,000 agents that like just do one thing. Then you've got the platform players, you've got the foundational models, and then where we fit in is how do we integrate the ecosystem together. I think the platform players are going to be where a lot of the interesting stuff comes out. Like, can we make AI actually useful in CRM data? Can we have it? You know, I have a question right now, which is for our best users, look at what they have in common, essentially a lookalike audience. Then find me the other users who have signed up who are like those people but not retained. Seems simple enough, right? Because I want to like nurture them, I want to survey them, find out what we're wrong, etc. AI can't quite do that yet, but I think it will be able to soon. Things like Breeze Intelligence and HubSpot, and that's what the interesting things coming out of the platform players are going to be.
Got it. So, okay, so you've called out the platform players as one set of players, right? Getting involved in building agents for, say, GTM and go-to-market use cases. You've got the foundation players are also trying to do some of it, right? I mean, I heard about an operator agent from OpenAI, right? And then you folks are trying to be the independent, call it neutral arbiters in a sense, right? Where, in a sense, agent
Yeah, absolutely.
creators can come in and get some distribution advantage or exposure or awareness, right, for their agents back into the same customer user community. Is that fair? I'm just trying to break up. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And part of it too is that most agents, all of AI is better if you have it be focused, right? It's part of why like ChatGPT might give you like a generically good answer, but if you go find like a sales BDR AI tool that's specifically for that, it's going to give you a better output because it's focused. Part of the interesting thing is if you're not a platform player, so if you're not HubSpot, you don't have thousands of people who can work on this. Your agents are more useful when they can work with other agents. And
mm,
so that's one of the interesting things about platforms like Agent AI. One of the reasons we wanted to build this is because people are building all these really interesting tools, but you may want it to like do LinkedIn research, and then you want it to generate a message, and then you want it to like test that message, and then you want it to like read the news so you can build rapport with the person talking about things. You're not going to build one agent that does all those things perfectly, and you don't have time to build all the agents, but you can invoke agents from your own agent on our site. So you can say like this other agent, brand safety is a good example. You don't want to maintain that agent and do all that stuff. Just have it like invoke a brand safety agent, make sure that the output isn't saying anything weird to the user, and then generate the output. I think that's a huge advantage to building on agent AI is the utility of the agent that you build. Again, unless you're a platform player, is much higher when it can be combined. Like I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect that if I looked at sales of peanut butter and sales of jelly before and after the peanut butter jelly sandwich was invented, like the sales of both are higher. It's the same thing when it comes to agentic AI development.
Fair enough. So here's a question then. Where do you see the current state of the art in terms of agents communicating and talking to agents? Because from what I understand, that world is just literally in its early days. Is that correct? Kind of the inter-agent communication, making agents work together.
Yeah, I don't trust agents to talk to humans yet, and humans are pretty good at telling me when it's wrong. I definitely don't trust agents to talk to other agents yet.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Somebody asked me a few weeks ago, they're like, so is it just going to be my buying agent and your selling agent talking to each other? And I'm like, yes, but you're making that sound like a bad thing. It'll like automate all of the buying and selling process for SaaS that we hate, right? And then we could
Mm,
focus on the coaching, the consultative sales processes, everything else that we want. I don't think we're there yet because the context isn't good enough.
mhm.
I asked Perplexity like whether I should buy a new router. Like it needs to know the router that I have, how good's my internet, all those things in order to then go like talk to the agent on its own.
Yep.
Um, we've we've gotten AI. So this is my biggest feature request of the last couple of years. We've gotten AI. We've introduced an element of doubt. So again, the difference between a CEO and an intern is like how often you've been burned and how much you doubt yourself, and like, the lack of confidence that you have. Um, So, for example, if you go to ChatGPT, I think it's 4 or 5, and you use their deep research one, it'll ask you clarifying questions, and that's a huge step. But it's still not quite good enough to say like I don't really know the answer here. Like I need to go ask the user. And so agent to agent interaction, I think, is going to be the amazing trend of the next year, and the people who figure that out are going to be have a huge advantage. Uh, but a word of caution: uh, the agent it's interacting with can't tell you when your agent does something weird, like a human can. So just keep that in mind as you're starting to let agents interact with other agents. It may seem less risky, and it probably is because you can't piss off that agent like you can a human. But there's also less of a potential feedback because that other agent's not going to tell you that it's spitting nonsense.
Yeah, look, I mean, you said something I think that's super insightful. I believe for let's call it the AI go to market tech founders who are all
Mm.
building innovative new tech. I think all of us are grappling with, okay, how agentic do I want to get? you know, we all have this. Some of us have had older SaaS applications. Now we've started building a lot of AI features, AI capabilities in there where we can deliver value to the customer. And we want to keep it robust, industrial strength, scalable, all that good stuff, right? Going into the mid market and enterprise, so critical, and secure, right? Fail safe and not misbehave. All of that is so critical. So yeah, no, that's interesting to hear that it's really early days on that agent to agent stuff. So yeah, let's keep going. Let's talk about a new topic: pricing, packaging, etc. So let's say companies like us, we go and build these agents, and we want to put it out through your agent.ai marketplace. What are you seeing in terms of how these agents are being priced, so to speak? Traditional models have been platformed, and you have had per user. People are talking about outcome-based pricing, new credit-based pricing models, right? And like maybe one single credit card charge. Are you thinking of some unified way for people to pay in maybe into your org, and then the agent builders get paid? Or I mean, I'm just curious about how do you see pricing in the agent world?
Yeah. So from our perspective, the best way to think about it's like the App Store. You can have a perpetual license. You build an agent, you can give it away for free, which all 1,300 are right now because we haven't yet launched our marketplace functionality. You can charge a one-time license for it. I think that makes a lot of sense. You can charge a recurring subscription for it. That's the normal SaaS way. You can charge based on usage. I know this is the most popular way, and HubSpot does it this way as well, charging for tokens, charging for usage. And I like that because it scales, much like how HubSpot charges per number of contacts that you want to market to. Shopify might charge based on the number of products. I like that it scales with the user so that they can start with a small amount and then they can grow into it. But I always like when pricing is aligned with what the user cares about. So Salesforce CRMs, it was easy, right? Because like you add more sales reps and then you pay for more seats, right? So if you're growing as a business, like that's a nice analog there. The dream is the outcome based, right? All of us always say that. Um, the last time some ad agency came to you and said like, if we can hit these numbers, how much money will you spend? And we all get frustrated and say infinite amounts of money. Because if you can just crank through customers that fit my kind of target unit economics, I will just, if I run out of money, I will literally go get more. Um, I think the outcome and results based is going to be the really interesting part because it's psychologically safe. We like it. For example, if I had a chess agent that literally only got paid if I got better at chess, I would do that. And it aligns the AI's incentives with mine. It aligns the incentives of the developers with mine, etc. That's just hard, but I think it's still a prediction problem. So the metaphor that I use is like, you know, Google will charge you per click. They're not going to charge you per lead because unless you're using one of their other systems, because they don't know how good the website is that you're being sent to, right?
Right.
So the only level of detail that they can get down to is they really confident what the click through rate is going to be and what the value is to the person doing the marketing.
Mhm.
Same thing with us right now. Like the marketer would rather pay per lead, right? But Google doesn't have the confidence to do that. But the same thing with as we're designing these things, the ability to know how much money and be able to structure your economics based on outcomes. I think that'll be a huge game changer. And the other reason I don't like usage based or consumption-based pricing. So the more you use it, the more you pay. Is one, AI is still new, so like let's please not introduce roadblocks to people using it. Where like the more I use it, like this is why we hid the credit system in our platform, because people said they weren't using agents because they were worried about running out of credits. Even though credits mean nothing, we just put them in there because we knew we needed a placeholder for that feature. But also, we take it as a granted that AI performance is going to keep going up and costs are going to keep going down. And so, if you're building your economics around charging for usage, I get it, because if somebody uses it a lot, you want to be able to offset those costs because it is quite expensive right now. But I think that's short-term thinking. It would be like launching a CMS company right now and charging per website visit, right? Like storage and processing is so cheap now that you would never do that, even though 20 years ago they very much did do that. I think the same is going to be true with kind of consumption-based AI pricing in the future.
Got it. And so if you look at your own agent AI, are you expecting individual agent builders to set their own price? So it's flexible? Is that the current model? So people
Yeah,
can come in
exactly
and
right. Like the CEO of Apple had no idea that Uber would become a thing, right? That's the beauty of the marketplace and platform strategy is we've
right.
just got to create the conditions for other really innovative, smart, entrepreneurial people to figure out things that create value. We don't have to
Got it.
figure it out all ourselves.
Right. So what are the typical integrations you're seeing from the agents in your marketplace and what people are building back into enterprise tools, tech systems? Is there any particular ones that seem to you see more, others you see less?
Yeah, so ingesting data is kind of what you'd expect. So email, YouTube, podcast feeds, social media, LinkedIn, etc. Um, in, connecting with your CRM data and just like all of your like ops data is really interesting. Being able to prep your sales reps based on recorded sales calls and past CRM outcomes, like that's huge. Being able to connect it to, I think, more and more corporate governance stuff, not just like legal approval. Although I do have an agent that just tells me in advance what the legal team is going to complain about, so I don't have to pay them the ridiculous hourly rate that lawyers charge when it already knows that it's going to like kick that back to me. I still check with them at the end, but that's there. Um, but it's kind of that ability to plug into other systems, even like brand guidelines, right? Like I reflexively say agent.ai uh, because I want people to know, like, we don't own agent.com. Actually, we do own agent.com. But anyways, agent.ai is still our brand. Uh, and our brand team wants us to be agent AI. And when I'm typing things, when I'm speaking, etc., like the agent that I'm using will check that brand guideline and make sure that I'm doing things properly. So being able to ingest like the systems about your customers, about outcomes, conversations you've had, I think that is the most useful thing that people do. But the newest trend that I'm seeing is, can companies have a lot of the policies? So like I don't want to approve travel expenses, right? Like they should just be able to ask like, hey, is Sam going to mind if I book this like slightly more expensive hotel? And they should be able to like get an answer to that. That's an interesting new trend that I'm seeing.
Okay, awesome. We're going to switch now and talk about your own GTM, right? So obviously, you guys have the, let's call it the advantage of a lot of LinkedIn content from your amazing founder of HubSpot and so on. Um, so yeah, if you can talk about that, GTM motions that are helping you all get the word out, tactics, programs, channels, anything to drive adoption, meaning more agents getting built on your platform.
Yeah, so the answer might surprise you. While it's great that we've got this big social network, it's not quite large enough to hit our growth goals, right? Like we have 2 million users on the site. My goal is to have 10 million weekly active users by inbound, which is in September, so 4 months. And Dharmesh's LinkedIn profile can't quite do that. We've had really good success with paid acquisition. We worked with a company called RevSure AI and did a lot of deep funnel optimization. So being able to feed back to the Google AI, the Facebook AI, et cetera, not just when somebody hits, not just when they convert, but did they use more than one agent? Were they retained for multiple weeks? And giving dollar values and like really training that well. Like our efficiency is absurd, just because we did that like deep funnel optimization. On the other hand, so that's like a very at scale kind of thing. On the other hand, the things that's really working are a lot of the heavier lift stuff that you might not think would make as much sense. So we do a lot of workshops. Like you can literally just ping ping us, like hit Sam at agentai.ai if you want. And we do workshops with companies to kind of jumpstart them building agents. And that's where you get a lot of the really cool ones. Like that kind of workshop is where we got the agent where it strips out the meanness. That was just
Mm.
somebody at a company who's like, I would love for my life to not have this. And then we do a lot of hackathons. So right now, because we don't have the marketplace functionality to incentivize people to build on the site, we're just we just do hackathons, and we're going to do like a grant and stuff like that, just to like pay people, like build cool agents, and we'll worry about kind of the monetization later. But those are things that have worked like pretty well for us. Paid acquisition, remarkably more effective than you'd think. And then it's very 2010, like leaning into the CS content oriented stuff, right? Where it's like we have, the webinar, we do podcasts, right? Like all this kind of stuff. We're doing that because the biggest challenge is not using AI, it's overcoming the mental and emotional block to start using AI and continue using AI. And so that's really where the leverage is for us.
Got it. And so who are you trying to bring in through that paid acquisition channel? Who's your target? I'm just curious.
Yeah, the target is revenue professionals, so marketing, sales, CS, ops, analysts, etc. Those types of people. Um, Again, like we don't exclude anybody. You can build a Dungeons and Dragons agent if you want, but we're optimizing for retained multi-agent weekly active user. So retained meaning you've used the platform at least 3 weeks in a row. Multi-agent meaning you've used more than one, because that's really where the value comes from. And then weekly active user meaning that it's creating enough value for you that you use it at least once a week. So that's really what we're solving for. Is for people who are revenue professionals, can we find the people who can use more than one agent at least once a week for 3 weeks in a row? And that's what we define as success.
Got it. And so the agents are hosted by your marketplace and site. So they have to come to your site to log in, and then they have to use one or more of these agents, and each individual agent may be connected to some other technology tool or system within their enterprise. Am I correct in how this whole thing is working? Is that
Yeah, exactly. It's building the team of agents. And you saw, like, spoiler alert, the orchestration agent that we're working on launching.
right?
That its goal is to simplify that. So our AI's job is to know you well, in your job title, your style, your competitors, your company, etc. And based on what you're trying to do, it'll say you need to use these agents in this order, because sometimes that matters, and you need to feed them this data. And then it'll essentially say, "Do you want me to help you with that?"
Got it.
Because that's the key. Even with just 1,400 agents on the site that are public, and many hundreds more being added every week, and that pace is increasing pretty fast. It's already like too much. Like I remember the early days of the App Store. I could check every day and see like what new apps had been built. Kind of very quickly became unsustainable. We have the same issue, right? Like you can't look and see everything that's new every day. It's really about, can our platform help you to decide, because you may not even know it's possible, that there's an agent that can help with something. So helping you based on what you're trying to do, who you are, and what it knows about you, helping you discover the agents to use.
Right. Right. So looks like, yeah, you're solving the discovery problem. And also, I'm assuming this whole orchestration is about some kind of a workflow builder in a sense, right? Which agent is going to talk to which agent, and how is the data going to flow, and right, incomes and outcomes are going to flow from one to the
Yeah,
next.
so like first you need to do the company research, then you need to like draft the email, then you need to do that. Like the order actually does matter.
Right.
And sometimes the agents need to talk to each other, but sometimes it's just an agent needs an output from another agent before it can proceed with
Correct.
its job.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's absolutely the plan.
Got it. Got it. I mean, so it'll be interesting, right? Because you will have your orchestration workflow builder interface of some sort for us to connect agents on your platform to each other. And then you're going to have the enterprise, as you said, the agentic development frameworks and platforms that are going to have their own notion of agents. So kind of it's going to be an interesting world, I guess. Let's kind of move the discussion now to the next topic, which is um, what do you see as the future? Just looking ahead 6, 12, 24 months. I think you touched upon this even earlier. Um, any particular areas you are foreseeing? Uh, let's talk about workflows then. I mean, what is the low hanging fruit in terms of AI GTM workflows that you're anticipating will be one of the early successful use cases of agents talking to agents to talking to agents that you
Yeah.
see in widespread use.
I mean, so a lot of the low hanging fruit's getting picked off, which is totally fine. Again, like drafting emails, summarizing calls, sending follow up emails, that kind of stuff. It is the movement on the trust axis that's going to increase. So, can we get to where I can trust the chat agent to talk to a user in Tagalog and trust that it's going to say something proper? Um, and the other thing that really interests me is how do you change an org when, for example, the sales reps can generate their own proposals? They don't have to bother the marketing team. The marketing team can write code. They don't have to bother the engineering team. The engineering team can do customer research and understand economics and strategy and stuff without having to talk to the marketing team. Like, I think that's the interesting trend is we're all becoming far more T-shaped. We still have our area of specialty, but I'm now mediocre at a lot more things than I used to be, which is a huge degree of independence for the people on your team. So it's not about like replacing the people on your team. It's like, what can they do if they have to ask for help from other people less often or for less dumb things that are like a waste of the engineering team or the marketing team's time. Um, the other, like, I think the context windows increasing are going to be interesting because I just want to feed it everything. I don't want to like think about which speeches and which articles and stuff that I feed it. I want it to know everything that's ever happened to me and be able to act essentially like that way. And I think it's becoming feasible. We've got million token context windows and such now. Multimodality I think is really interesting. It hasn't gotten as much adoption as I think it should and will, but people, should be able to talk to your website because some people prefer that. So I really like to listen to things. My wife really likes to read things. Like the ability to adapt to your communication style is going to be important. And then the connectivity of tools. Um, this shift heavily favors startups, new entrants to markets, like smaller, more agile teams, in part because the advantages of very large companies, which is, for example, integration teams, that can stitch everything together, they don't matter anymore. You're going to have it to where like AI gives a college student in Lithuania on par GTM access as me when I raised $10 million at my last startup. So I think there's going to be like the best perspective wins, the best execution wins. There's going to be a lot more of that, even in just the next year, but definitely in the next like 3 to 5 years.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so let's close this out, Sam. So let's talk about companies that are just getting up and running and starting to adopt more and more AI for their go-to-market efforts. Anything you have by way of how to get started, how to get going, any low-hanging fruit pockets or areas across marketing, sales? I mean, I know you have quite a bit of your own personal background, right? You said you've been a marketer, selling to marketers, and obviously now you're running this marketplace. You've got the other hat too. So, well, if you can touch upon that, like where should they get started and how do they get going in
It
transforming?
weirdly reminds me of 15 years ago. Like I remember having to explain to CEOs what a search engine was and why it would matter before we could get them doing SEO and using SEO tools.
Right.
It's faster now because like the news, everybody's talking about AI. Everybody knows it like kind of matters. But I was explaining to some younger people on the team last week that for a lot of us who are later in our careers, this is a new habit to build. Like I don't instinctively say, and I freaking run Agent AI, and I still don't instinctively say, is this something I could use AI for? And I'm starting to get better at that. Where it's like before I go do something, is there a way that I could use AI to do this either faster or better? So one, start asking yourself that question a lot. Try to use AI at least once a day, even if it's for something dumb. Especially if you're like call it 35 plus, right? Like you've got habits, right? I've got at least 2 decades of bad habits, or at least like out of date habits. Again, my 16-year-old nephew picked it up much faster than I did because he doesn't know the right way, and so he figured out the better way much faster.
Yeah.
Use it for the obvious low-hanging fruit. Have it write social posts for you, email, etc. But my favorite way is use it to understand the people around you better, because that's the best way to understand what AI can do. It's the best way to understand the real value it can bring, and like really think differently about AI as being more than just like a slot machine of like content that's kind of mediocre. ask it like, hey, what do my colleagues think about me? What does the CFO think about my expenditure on buying HubSpot if you're the CMO? That I think is the most interesting way for people who are trying to build a habit of AI, is use it to also reinforce your habit of empathy, because that's going to be the moat for humans moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. And I think that we've closed on a pretty interesting note to our chat today. So I'm going to put up just the final slide, which is let people know, how they can reach out to you and get in touch with you.
Yeah, so I'm ridiculously easy to find on the internet. There's not that many people with my last name in this industry. I'd encourage people though to go to community.agent.ai. It's where the smartest people are hanging out. I don't know all the answers, and I'm very aware of that. The community is where everybody's trying to figure out the answers together. So you can send me an email, you can hit me on LinkedIn, but if you really want to have more interesting talk, I'd go to community.agent.ai.
Okay. Thank you, Sam. Awesome discussion. And we look forward to staying in touch. Bye for now.